and offering to bring the best and most innovative solutions to our customers. One of the ways we try and educate our clients on new solutions is through our monthly webinar series. So we really appreciate you joining us today and look forward to having continued conversations with you about how Gigamon is able to support your network needs. As we look at Gigamon, we understand that there's a continued growth of network monitoring tools and security tools and other types of devices sitting on your network. And admins and security specialists are always searching for ways to make these tools more efficient, to make them fit on the networks, which can be complex, especially with multiple devices on the network. We're excited to have Patrick present Gigamon and their capabilities today to really simplify your network and provide better information to the tools that are currently in place, as well as some of the tools that you might be looking at on the horizon. For those of you who are new to Bright, we've been in business since 1983, and we're headquartered out of Rochester, New York. And we have 4 other regional offices. We have 3 main business practices within our organization, which are centered around computing infrastructure, data and network security, and IT services. For more than 10 years, we've been in the front lines with our clients, protecting their data, their applications, and infrastructure from ever-evolving threats. Specializing in the data and network security area, we've been providing industry-leading and innovative solutions. I'm very excited to turn this over now to Patrick Kane from Gigamon to have them talk to you about their innovative ways that can make your networks more efficient and provide better visibility to the data necessary.
Thank you, Trevor. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Bright Computing for allowing us to present today. My name is Patrick Kane, as Trevor had mentioned. The idea of today's presentation is to give you an overview of the business value of working with a company like Gigamon. We can get into a lot more detail on the technology at a later time. We can work this through Bright. We can do on-site meetings or have other calls. But to understand the value of what Gigamon can bring your company, it's not just about port counts and speeds and feeds. It's more of the overall business. And we're going to take a top-down view of what our value is here at Gigamon. But normally a title slide is just that. It's a title slide. But kind of keep this in mind. It's what you can't see that will sink you. And that's what we're going to drill into as the presentation goes on. So take a quick look at the agenda. What Gigamon offers is called a visibility fabric. So who needs it? What is it? ROI? And we'll talk a little bit, finally talk a little bit about Gigamon. So take a look at some numbers. 90% of mean time to resolution. What this means is there's a problem on the network, and 90% of the time it's what is the problem? I need to identify what's going on my network because you can't solve what you can't see. You can't solve what's causing the problem. Unfortunately, 75% of those problems are identified by the end user. This is a proactive strategy. And no matter what IT organizations try to do, they're always in that reactive state of mind. What we're doing here at Gigamon is to make companies much more proactive. Get ahead of that 90% number. So just take a look at a quick survey by ESG, and this was done in 2012, but it still resonates very strongly today. So there's a phrase out there, and it's dated, it's used all the time, but it's what keeps you up at night. This was asked of network manager, really IT executives. And you'll look, network security, almost 60% have said this is a top concern, followed by network performance, network management, and application performance. Each one of these is over 35%, and as you can see, the top is network security. These top 4 is where Gigamon can address, and these top 4 are the top reasons why these IT executives are up at night. So we're going to go into more detail on that. But first, we want to talk about the demand of tools being used. So what is a tool? A tool is anything that is deployed in order to supply you with security, analytics, network performance, application performance, anything that needs data from the network in order to operate. And these are tools that you deploy to provide you with that. So you look at the top, network performance monitoring. Almost 90% are currently in use. IPS IDS under the security umbrella, almost 70%. Application performance, packet capture, all of these are well over 50%. And then you look at the bottom, other types of tools. These numbers are continuously growing. Why is that? Because you constantly need to secure your network. You constantly need analytics. How is my network performing? How are my applications being received by the end user? And so on and so on. So a visibility fabric, again, this is an independent survey by ESG. Almost 80% said, yes, I could use this type of technologies, this architecture in my environment. And part of that is I don't have enough span ports. The tools cannot keep up with the speeds of network. Unfortunately, when you had 1 gig just a few years ago, you had a 1 gig network, you were cutting edge. Now we're talking 40, if not 100. And since the speeds of these networks are increasing, we're relying on the tools to increase as well. That many times requires new tools to be deployed. And then once they're deployed, the network gets faster and faster, so the tools can't keep up. You don't have enough connection points. I can only isolate the traffic to certain tools. I want to have pervasive visibility throughout my network to send to any one of those tools, have on-demand access to that data, and send it wherever I want. That is the idea, and that is what the visibility architecture is able to offer. We'll get into much more detail on that. So what is it? Take a look at a basic network diagram. Very, very simple, very straightforward. But what this is the crown jewels of the company. And if this is all we had to do, I think we'd all be very, very happy, but it's unrealistic. So you look at some of the vendors that many of you have deployed today, Cisco, Juniper, Brocade, etc., and you just see the basic tiers of the network. And if this is all we would have to do, great, but that's not realistic. So remember, number one was security, and we're going to touch on security. So what's layer one? Usually of a security strategy, firewalls. And you can see some of those vendors that are deployed. What is the actual deployment strategy for your firewalls? Where do you deploy them? Do you put them in line? How do I gather up the data to send to these firewalls? Is it via TAP? Is it via span ports? Another part of your security strategy is email security, separate from the firewall. But again, this is the strategy. How do you deploy? Is it a hardware platform, a software platform? Where do you deploy your email security? Is it inline? Is it not? Where do I get that data? From taps, from spans, etc. Now we take a look at the web gateway. Again, totally separate from the original strategy. Where do you put your web gateway? How many of these web gateways do you put out there? How do you gather that data? Is it inline? Is it not? Is it taps? Is it spans? Etc. Now what we have going on is we've only just touched 3 technologies, but then you have technologies revolving around customer experience, compliance, downtime versus uptime. If it's down, why is it down? When is it down? How can you be much more proactive? That's why you have this layered approach, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. That's what these tools under the security umbrella allow you to gather. So now we talk about more security. DLP, BPA, a SIM. These are tools that are allowing you to try to be much more proactive. But again, remember the 90-75 rule. No matter how many of these tools are out there, you're still doing this in a proactive fashion. I'm sorry, in a reactive fashion. So we go back to network security. Everything that's just been discussed, I'm still on number 1, and I have only given you part of number 1. So where does that transcend? Remember this pretty picture of our very basic network? Now it looks like this. And this is what we've just discussed in the different quadrants that you've seen. This can go on and on. Now, part of the issue in what you're seeing is there's too many metrics to measure, not enough places to collect the data. There's way too many tools, not enough span ports or not enough taps to connect. There's too much data. There's not enough tool capacity to handle it, which will lead to oversubscription. And the useful tools will gather dust because there's nowhere to plug them in. You as end users spend a great deal of revenue on these tools, but these tools are only as good as the data that they're gathering. Oversubscription is leading to data that you're not able to analyze, and if you're only getting 80% of the data to that tool, you're only getting 80% of the value of that tool. So what we have here is the visibility fabric architecture. You can see it's a lot cleaner. So we start from the right. There's my tools. That's what we consider now a tool farm. You have tool consolidation. Then that will go through the visibility fabric. What the fabric is allowing you to do, it's not just connection points throughout your network. It really is tentacles wherever the data is flowing, allowing you to gather that up, bring that into our visibility fabric, and then allow you to send customized data streams to each one of these tools. Every tool on the right is going to need a different form of the data stream, or some of them may need all of it. You are in complete control. We do have a technology called flow mapping. I'm going to go into a little more detail toward the end, but that really allows you to send those customized data streams to those tools, at the same time greatly reducing the overhead of those tools. And let's just say you happen to have a 1 gig network and you're going to 10 gig, keep the 1 gig tools. We're going to supply only the data that is needed by that respective tool. Very important, though, if you look back at the network diagram, the different connection points. So you can via tap or span, but it's all about the connection points throughout the network. That's what we're doing here at Gigamon. It's the tentacles that allow you to take that data in, access it, and then control it. And in turn, we started the presentation, reactive versus proactive. Now you're able to be much more proactive. So just keeping with the theme, you deploy tools. And again, we need those tools to keep us, well, smart, keep us secure. What exactly is going on my network? How do I get in front of that downtime? The issue we have here is I don't have enough ports to connect to those tools. Visibility Fabric takes care of that. Take all of that network traffic in, we can send it to any one of these 5 tools. Conversely, you have a large network and you only have a limited amount of tools. I can't gather up all the data because I don't have enough connection points. Now you do. So we're taking, again, all that traffic in, letting the tentacles flow, grabbing that data, and now we'll send it off to these performance monitors. The idea, again, with your tool delivery is to minimize, if not eliminate, oversubscription. These performance monitors need all the data that you're sending it. Dropping 5% of that data is not acceptable. So many times we're asked, are you a tool? No. So what we're going to do is go south to north. You look again, remember the picture of our network diagram. These are the vendors many of you are using today. But then on the top you have what, again, we're calling tools. And in those different silos are the different tool farms. But you take a look all the way to the right, security. You can have multiple of these tools. Every one of these tools is going to need a different data stream. That's what Gigamon does. You may have every one of these tools deployed in your network. We can send every one of these tools a different data stream. And since we're going south again with the network and the server farm, we're able to connect to multiple points throughout the network. You're consolidating, greatly consolidating your tool farm. So just take a quick look at the ROI of using a technology like Gigamon. So from a CapEx perspective, again, when you have a tool or multiple tools, multiple connection points, this is your existing tools or future tools, this is where Gigamon comes in. We have an immediate ROI day one. That's consolidating the tools from a CapEx and OpEx perspective. That's a matter of being much more proactive because I can connect to many more connection points throughout the network. From an OpEx, now if I don't need all of these other tools, well, I don't need the support contracts or the operational costs that come with that. And also span management. You can have a span misconfiguration from my network going to the tool. You're going to cause downtime. That's not going to happen with Gigamon. Gigamon is a unidirectional technology from the network to the tool farm. So take a look at a large utility company. I'm sorry, let me start again. The idea was a network performance monitoring initiative they had. The original cost to deploy at all the different connection points was over $6 million. Using Gigamon's visibility fabric, able to consolidate the performance monitors, able to connect to more points throughout the network, giving greater visibility, able to use the network performance monitors, greatly reducing the overhead on those monitors by using flow mapping, they saved 50% CapEx. Much better visibility through the traffic to the network performance monitors. So we're going to take a large bank that's been using Gigamon for a very, very long time, one of the largest banks in the world, and a very, very good client of Gigamon. So this bank was able to execute a data center relocation with hundreds of applications over a weekend with no issues to be resolved Monday morning. That was using the visibility fabric. They were, the idea was being much more proactive, able to do this relocation over a weekend. The business unit owners were so impressed with this. Anytime they had an initiative, they went right to the team that was using Gigamon and said, help me do this. Conversely, there is a large manufacturing company, multi-billion-dollar company, and this organization was doing a network refresh. They understood what they needed to do from the network side, but unfortunately, on the security side, all they did was port counts. Once this initial security deployment was done, the network owners realized they did not have anywhere near the amount of control over the data that was once assumed. And every new connection, there needed to be a reconfiguration, and that security strategy needed to grow and grow. Again, in a situation like this company is only as strong as its weakest link. So what they did was deployed Gigamon. Their security deployment was much more proactive. They could install security devices. They could do it middle of the day. There was no network downtime because the security technologies were all, the traffic was delivered out of band. There was no impact to the network. And they were able to leverage multiple connection points throughout the network, making their security strategy a lot stronger. Again, keeping up at night. Remember the 58%. So just take a quick look at Gigamon. I had mentioned several things before. One of the technologies that really separates Gigamon from anyone else is called flow mapping. So when Gigamon first started, this is all we do at Gigamon. It's that middle piece between the network and the tools. So we would be brought in project-based, and I needed to send data to this certain tool. Worked fine. But then, since we worked so well, more and more data sources were brought on board. And then more and more tools were brought on board. And basic filtering, take out this traffic, don't include this traffic, wasn't able to scale. So what Gigamon introduced several years ago is a technology called flow mapping. What flow mapping is, understand it's not simple ingress, egress, port filtering. It's the filtering upon the flow of data. So these are rules that will be set up. And these rules will allow you to say what data should be sent, where it should be sent, what should happen once it arrives, what data stream should take priority of another, what should be discarded altogether. You have complete control over the data that's traversing your network. This is done in the physical world. It's also done in the virtual world. I don't have much information right now on our virtualization strategy, but we can get into that in greater detail. We can work that through Bright. But for now, just wanted to give you a basic understanding. This is the separation of Gigamon to everyone else. These tools on the right, again, they're only as good as the data that they're seeing. So if I take out that fire hose and shoot it at the coffee mug, it's not going to do much good. So tool number one is a VoIP analyzer. Just send it the VoIP data streams. Tool only needs IDS traffic. Send it the traffic that it needs, and so on and so on. That's what we're doing as far as the visibility fabric. It's not just gathering the data, which we do so well. It's the delivery of the data as well. We have another technology called Giga Smart. So think of Giga flow mapping as the actual management of the filtering of the data streams to the tools. What Giga Smart is packet modification. So a few examples of that. It's a licensed technology, so it's more a la carte. So deduplication. You have a tool that needs the streams of data to give you analytics. It could be network monitoring, let's just say. With deduplication, so many times on the network side, there are packets that are resent over and over. It's the same exact data stream. It could be VLAN traffic that's creating double the amount of packets. Once that traffic is taken into our visibility fabric, we can then dedupe it. In other words, get rid of the duplicate packets and then send that traffic off to that network monitor. Why send it additional traffic that it doesn't need? Why add the overhead to it that it doesn't need? Give these tools the traffic that they actually need and allow them to perform for you. Another is net flow generation. Many times tools need that net flow statistics. But what we're doing, since we're already taking that network traffic in, we're providing that net flow information, net flow generation, so to speak. Now we're taking the overhead not off the tools, we're taking it off the switches. Allow the switches to do what they do. Again, we're taking that traffic in. Let us do it. Let us do the heavy lifting as far as the net flow generation. We can then send that off to the different tools that require net flow. Packet slicing is another one. Very, very simple. You're slicing the packet. Why do that? Because there are certain tools that only need a certain part of that packet. So if you only need the header, just give it the header, and so on and so on. Through flow mapping, you can customize the size of the packet slice for each tool as well. So you can get extremely granular on not just flow mapping, but the use of Giga Smart. And one last thing we have is not last, but just to give you another example, is tunneling. So many times you have an organization that has data centers throughout the world. What we've been able to do is consolidate that. And how we're doing it is you have, say, just as an example, you have 3 main data centers. You have all of these remote sites, so to speak. And at those sites, you have network traffic. And in order to keep myself safe, in order to give myself the performance analytics that I need, I deploy tools at those different sites. Now, it may not be as large as the main data centers, but it's still something I need to manage, something I need to pay for, and something I need to pay support on. Well, what we've been able to do is instead of having 6 tools at these remote sites, just as an arbitrary number, we're going to have 1 Gigamon device. That Gigamon device is then going to build a tunnel back to the main data centers where that traffic will meet another Gigamon device. At the remote site, though, we're using flow mapping. So we're only sending the data across that is needed by the tools at the main data centers. We have had an ROI in the millions by doing this. Different tools that don't need to be deployed globally. Some of these tools can be extremely expensive. And not just that, the support contracts are extremely expensive as well. So part of the ROI here, we're doing at Gigamon. It's not just at the packet level. It's higher at the business level, so to speak. Okay, and we can, there's several of you on the call, we can get into every one of these specifically based on your needs. So take a look at our overall architecture, so to speak. So at the entry level, if you start at the bottom, more toward the right, it's TAP and aggregators. These are our entry points to the visibility fabric. This is how we gather the data. So we have a full line of active and passive copper and fiber taps. That's how we can get to the data, or we can connect through span ports. Then you move over to the actual series. We have the H series, the G series. G is more legacy. H is our latest product line. You can see everything we're doing here between flow mapping and Giga Smart. These devices are the access to get at it. So what I mean by that is, no matter where you are, large data center, we have an HD8. Remote site, you have HB1, and we have everything in between. All of these devices are architected to perform at line rate. So your tools are only as good as the data they're seeing. Oversubscription is not going to help you. Our devices are all purpose-built to perform at line rate. Again, minimizing, if not eliminating, over subscription. Deliver what the tools need. Help you sleep at night. So then on top of that, we have what we discussed, flow mapping. This is the tool. This is how I'm going to get the tools the correct data they need. Giga Smart, any type of modification of those data streams. We have our management platform, which is Giga FM, Fabric Manager. We have several companies that have over 100 of our devices. They are now able to manage that at a single pane of glass. Now, I talked about Giga Smart before. I've been with Gigamon almost 4 years. We had 2 Giga Smart applications. Right now, I believe we have 12 or 13. By next year, we can have 20. Where these ideas are coming from are from you. You're coming to us and saying, I need your products to do this. We write certain applications based on what our end users are asking us to do. It's not just about taking the packets and delivering them. It's not just being the traffic police officer in the middle between the network and your tool farm. It's giving you the ability to leverage this technology, to control it, to access it, and do whatever you need to help you to be much more proactive. Take a look at Gigamon. Many of the largest accounts, well-known logos throughout the world, have standardized on our technology. Be it global financial, be it advertising, be it service providers, be it whatever it may be, the largest companies in the world have standardized on our technology on a global basis. This is all Gigamon has done from the beginning of the company, is provide that visibility. Our company has grown really just from connection points at the beginning and able to deliver off to a tool to really creating what's called the visibility architecture, that visibility fabric, enabling organizations to take control and, again, be much more proactive. Our goal is to help you sleep at night, and I hope we're able to do that. I want to thank you very much for your time. I want to thank Bright for allowing Gigamon to present. As a takeaway, just some information. I run the region, which is New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. We have a full team of salespeople, of engineers. We are here to support you. We're here to support Bright Computing. We hope to speak to you soon, be it on-site at your office, be it a conference call, be it however you want to work this. We are here to support you and hope you can embrace this technology.
Yes,
thank you,
so
Patrick.
much.
Thank you very much for an informative presentation. Tanya, do we have any questions that we need to address at this time?
No, at this time I don't see any questions. If there's anybody out there that has anything, you can type in that question area and hit submit.
Okay, while we wait for those questions to come in, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will also make a recording. We recorded this presentation, so we'll make that available to you if you want to share that with any of your colleagues. And we'll get that out to you probably by tomorrow in this business. If we don't have any other questions, I'd like to conclude the call today and thank everybody for joining. Patrick, thanks for a fantastic presentation. It was really well laid out, and I hope everybody else on the phone feels the same, and look forward to speaking with you about how Gigamon can support your initiatives.
Thank you, Trevor.